Hi, I'm Tony Russo, and this is Funeral Service Insider, the podcast from Kates-Boylston. Conversations worth having about death care and end-of-life care. This week, we've got a great show for you. I am speaking with the guys from Titan Casket. Those are Scott Ginsberg, who you'll hear first, and Joshua Siegel, who you'll hear second. And the two of them have been at it and doing this kind of guerrilla casket making for, as Titan since 2019. But we're going to hear the story about how Titan became Titan and some of the things that they're doing that are so different that they've just kind of made a name for themselves in the larger ether. We're also going to talk about their move into pre-need, which is just selling caskets in advance, but they may be doing more of that in the future. And of course, we'll spend some time chatting about Mort, who is my favorite mascot in all of funeral service, maybe in all of mascotdom, except for, of course, Mr. Met, who is the best mascot. Anyway, great conversation. I'm sure you're going to get a kick out of it. So let's get started. So I called you guys early on when you, I think when you did the hyper casket, I think that was the one that finally made me decide I've got to call and see what's going on over at Titan Caskets. And we had this great conversation where you talked about how you moved into the direct to consumer business. So could you talk to me about that decision to go into direct to consumer?
Sure. I've been a casket manufacturer and distributor. I've been in the business for over 20 years. So I understood the world of caskets, I understood the funeral rule that was out there. And in 2016, I decided to start Titan Casket and give families a choice and option, essentially. And started out slowly and step by step just to see if it would take off. I threw a few caskets up on Amazon and just put my toe into it. And the reason why is I've been making caskets and selling caskets to other companies and shipping them across the country. And I said, if I can do it for them, why can I do it for myself, essentially? And so I understood how to package it up, how to move it, and move something the size of a couch from point A to point B, get it there in time and intact. So that's one of the really important features of this business. And but during that journey, having up on Amazon, I reached out to a fellow Columbia alum. I went to Columbia Business School. And Josh, also my partner, went to Columbia Business School, and he worked in Amazon at the time. And I reached out to him. I flew out to Seattle. I told him, what I'm up to, explained to him about the funeral rule and the industry and how the industry hasn't changed in over 100 years. And over lunch, Josh, I could see had, got it and understood it. And, but I'll let Josh continue from here.
Yeah, I think direct to consumer is how we go to market, but the real need we saw was there's just a lack of a consumer brand in funerals. And so having been through this myself, when somebody passes, you're just not sure who to turn to and who to trust and who to get advice from. And so we thought with what Scott was doing with going direct to consumer, and then with the sort of lack of a consumer brand, there was a real opportunity to build an interesting company and also help a lot of families. And seeing what had happened with Warby Parker and all these other brands that had stepped up in other categories while I was in Amazon, it just felt like the right opportunity to go for.
And because that's what fascinated me when we were talking about it, because you were saying how one of the, you don't have guys driving around the country knocking on doors saying, hey, will you use our caskets? And the idea that if an American knows the name of a casket company and they don't live near a casket factory, it's probably Titan. Does that sound right to you? Because that's how I feel, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the industry in itself, today, there's no casket company that's ever been branded. The average person doesn't know Batesville Matthews. And this industry hasn't changed in over 100 years. So this is one of the industries that is primed for disruption. So that's another reason why I'm doing this, because this is one of the last industries that hasn't been touched.
And one of the things that I got a kick out of, again, during our last conversation was this idea that word of mouth has actually kind of gotten back to funeral homes. So there are specific funeral homes that they've done business with you or families a couple times, and then they started doing business with you guys directly. Can you talk about how that transition kind of occurs?
Sure. I mean, every funeral home that we do, every customer actually sends it to Caskets to a funeral home. So by default, they see our product, they see the unique colors that we have to offer, unique styles, unique sizes. So organically, directors would call us up and say, wow, this is a great casket. And we really can't get that casket anywhere. And just organically, that started to grow from there.
And do you find that there's increasing? I mean, so I want to talk about the television show because I think it's a stroke of genius. Like how can you tell me how you guys decided? Because you have a web series now, and I talked about it a little bit on my other podcast, but you just recently had James Gunn on the day that Superman opened, so it's really kind of these very kind of high profile people sitting in your caskets having conversations. So can you talk about how you came up with the idea and how it got executed? And you got a bunch of heavy hitters pretty quickly because you're only in your second season, right?
I can answer. Yeah, I think that our journey to connect with celebrities started when Taylor Swift used our casket in Anti-Hero a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a ton of press, and all the press was largely positive, which we didn't quite know how that would go, being a casket company. And so we connected with a couple of the talent agencies who are their job is to connect celebrities with consumer brands. You've seen this in almost every other industry, just not caskets, where celebrities are starting their own brands.
Right.
And we found a creative advisor, Alon Gale, who he had been a producer of The Bachelor, but also just very well connected in Hollywood and is involved in a lot of different movie and TV productions. He brought us the idea that actor Dave Dastmalchian should be our brand ambassador. That it'd be that he was sort of the perfect fit. He understood our mission. It's also good for his brand. He had been a horror guy up to that point. And then the three of us sort of sat out to say, like, what can we do together? And I think it was Scott's push. He's always trying to get celebrities into caskets or and from that seed, we brought that to Alon, and they used some of their Hollywood magic to say, well, here's how that would come to life as a show. We did one small season a year ago with really just their friends. It was Matthew Lillard and Mike Flanagan, who are and Kate Siegel, who were just doing favors for Alon and David, saying, let's get into a studio for as cheap as we could do this and see if it works. And the feedback was so positive that we started getting inbound from other celebrities saying, hey, we'd love to be involved here. And we've quickly done 2 more 10-episode seasons. We hope to do 10 more. We're going to keep going as long as people keep asking to be on the show.
What's interesting too is when you think of, today when you see most TV shows or movies out there, they're reaching out to us for caskets.
Right.
And helping them from a set perspective or whatever it might be. And the most recent show was The Life of Chuck. You can see Titan product there. The funeral director wearing a Titan pin during the show. But it's been a fun ride. And really the reason why we do this is to normalize conversations around death and dying. And it actually helped creating our brand and solidifying it.
I want to tell you a story about the foundation of MTV because I don't know if you know it, but they got the guy who invented, who did well for Maypo, which was oatmeal. And it was this little kid screaming, I want my Maypo. And he just redoubled it and he said, you have to get Mick Jagger, specifically Mick Jagger, to say, I want my MTV. And if you get Mick Jagger to do it, you won't be able to stop other rockers from wanting to do it. And that's precisely what they did. And they had cable companies calling them saying, please stop running these ads. We're not adding your stupid music channel. And people are just calling us screaming, I want my MTV, and hanging up the phone. And then they doubled their ad buy and they were national within like 4 months or 5 months or something absurd like that. And that's what struck me when we first called, this idea of making the consumers or getting the consumers so aware that they're asking for it rather than trying to break into a business, which, as you said, has kind of been settled for a while. And so now you've kind of moved into, oh, I'm sorry. The other thing I wanted to ask about was how do you deal with the different state regulations? Because sometimes I know it's easier and sometimes it's more difficult to convince families and funeral directors that it's okay to ship a casket.
It's rare that we come up against state regulations. I think it's really funeral home by funeral home. Largely, I think funeral directors understand that there's the funeral rule, that it applies nationally. And then there are states that have restricted if cemeteries can sell caskets or having individual casket stores. But for us, since we were this, we have warehouses across the country, but we don't have physical retail stores. We're selling through our own storefront and then large retailers' websites. No, it's rare that somebody's brought up, well, here are the regulations in my state. But a lot of what happens is before a customer ever approaches us. So a lot of the influence that happens, or I don't know if people are setting regulations, that all happens, between a funeral director and a family. And again, I think nearly every funeral director we encounter has been wonderful. But we all know, you could look at the FTC does secret shopping, that's a percentage where the bad acting is still happening, and we encounter that. We had a situation last week in Texas where a funeral director called us and had just made a customer cancel their order. They got explicit violation of the funeral rule, and they were very proud of what they had done, and on a recorded line mentioned this. And so we still see that, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate for families. That family was really in crisis when this happened, unsure of the, but largely we just try to do the right thing. Funeral directors are more and more recognizing us as partners that can help them. And that's what we focus on every day is how do we help families and how do we help professions.
And how much of it do you guys think is because of fear of change, and how much of it is a fear of like some sort of quality thing? Like, I don't know. I don't understand where that disconnect is.
The thing I'm really empathetic to is that there have been casket companies before Titan who have mistreated funeral directors. And that's on the quality side and on the service side. And I get it. Like, it's like we know what's out there, but what we really try to show funeral directors, and we have this chance every time we get an order taken, is that we're different. Is that our products are excellent, our service is excellent. In the rare time that something goes sideways, as it can with their main supplier as well, we take care of the family. We have ways, we're going to be there for them. And so that's what we focus on, is what we can control. It's hard for us to, go back in time and speak for others. So we just try to show that Titan is different, and we're not, we're not the Batesville or Matthews, but we're also, we just focus on our operations and our service and our product quality.
Yeah, and I don't want to reiterate that what Josh said. We are consumer, family focused to a fault. We're there for them for whatever it is. You can read our reviews, and that to us is paramount because you don't get a second chance. We want to make sure that family's happy. However they want to honor that loved one, we're there for them.
And I imagine that your word of mouth, I guess it would be easier for everyone involved, I guess, or at least easier for you if your word of mouth was more on the funeral director's side. But I guess the perspective is, well, it didn't go wrong. Whereas with the consumer, it's like, well, it went right, and we did this, and we did that, and we did the other thing. So making that transition must be a difficult one. And how do you guys follow up with funeral directors? Is that what's your funeral director outreach like?
We have an email list, and we send out notes every couple of weeks reminding them that we're there, and if we have new products and colors. And then we put our catalogs into Caskets. And then we're not as consistent as we should be, but there are stretches when we do try to call every funeral director that we deliver to and ask how it went. but I would say we're still a small team, and our B2B outreach is not, we do not have a B2B sales org. So, we do what we can.
And we're very fortunate. I mean, because it isn't a huge part of our business, but it is certainly growing. Again, as I mentioned earlier, directors do reach out to us because they do see the product, they see the unique products, and they will call us when they get that unique case or a difficult case. They'll call us for help.
Join Kates-Boylston on November 12th for the Advances in Funeral Innovations Detroit Conference. This is a must-attend event for funeral professionals ready to embrace the future of funeral service. The event brings together renowned industry leaders for expert-led presentations and engaging discussions designed to help you stay ahead of emerging trends, sharpen your marketing strategies, streamline your operations, and deliver more personalized, meaningful services. Plus, you'll have the opportunity to network with fellow professionals, exchange ideas, and gain fresh perspectives that can elevate your business. Speakers include Danielle Burmeister, Vice President of Marketing Communications at Homesteaders Life Company, presenting Maximizing Team Performance Through Accountability and Alignment. Will Bischoff, Senior Vice President of Strategic Markets for Homesteaders Life Company, will present The Funeral Finance Roadmap, Strategies to Fund What's Next. Stephanie Castagnier-Dunn, Chief SBA Revenue Office, Phoenix SBA, a community bankshare company, will present The Silver Tsunami, the coming wave of business transactions. Matt Van Drimmelen, owner and founder of Full Circle Aftercare, will present Getting ROI Out of Aftercare at Your Funeral Home, Turning Compassion into Long-Term Value. Tom Cole, Vice President of Sales of Federal Eagle, and Nathan Hurst, National Sales Manager of Federal Eagle, will present Benefits from Funeral Car Innovation. Click on the link below for more information and to register. And along that lines, you mentioned your email list. I'm on the email list, and you guys recently have moved into pre-need, which is really interesting because you must have a pretty significant. I mean, I guess most of the people who have purchased caskets for you, or a good portion of them aren't with us anymore. But there are people who pay for them in advance, and you took that pay for advance and took it up one step. Can you talk about how you decided to make that decision and what you had to do to get ready to do it and how it's been going?
We had families come to us, like you said, who had a good experience and asked how they can arrange this for themselves, or somebody had planned a funeral for their wife and they wanted to make sure their children bought from Titan as well. And so enough people asked that question that we started to look into how to do this a few years ago. And we're not the only ones to do this, but we started with having a merchandise, a pre-need program where the funds are trusted. And it was a fairly, we're not the first to do it, so it didn't take too long to set up. And once we had that, we try to make it real simple, just like checking out on Amazon, except you're going through a pre-need process with as few questions as possible. So it would be a nice digital flow to it. And almost immediately we saw that become a significant part of our business. It's not where we focus. It's really just an option we have there for families who see this as the right fit. It's not the right fit for everybody, but when somebody wants to lock in their choice and put funds aside and know that that's all taken care of, that part of the problem, we're there for them.
And is that for caskets exclusively, or is it for, like, do you have I guess you must have an underwriter or something that you work with. And can I set aside funds for my entire funeral, or do I just pay for my casket in advance, that kind of thing?
Not yet. It is purely for the casket, and that's how we're able to operate nationally. We're not promising services. There's no cash advance. It's really just a layaway program like you would have at Walmart on a TV, except it's a little longer. But we recognize that it doesn't take care of the whole problem for families. They still need other funds. There's still a lot for them a lot of choices they want to let their family know about. And so, I think you'll see us in the not too distant future offer a more comprehensive solution for families.
Because you already have a list of people who paid for their casket in advance. I mean, that's a really valuable thing once you move into the if you decide to move into the pre-need market.
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, definitely. It's a valuable list because they've only purchased the casket. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the vision for the company. As we said, like a brand for consumers to turn to help them get ahead of their funeral planning. It's not just about the casket.
And finally, I just want to talk about my favorite part of your business, which is Mort. I was an early adopter of your mascot, and can you tell me how you developed that? And then you've partnered with the Red Sox, and I think that's awfully cool. So can you tell me the story of Mort?
Well, one day we
As
woke
much
up.
of it as you're willing to say.
The stories. Everyone has their own story with Mort. Like one day we woke up,
Yeah.
and he was here. And what he tells us is that
Exactly.
he all he remembers is that he was a funeral director.
Yeah.
And he spent his life selling caskets and helping families. And he had an unfortunate accident one day, and he woke up and he had come back to life as this anthropomorphic casket who's here to encourage people to plan ahead.
Exactly.
The other way to tell the story is Alon Gale, who I mentioned earlier, really encouraged us to have a mascot to tell that type of story. And we very quickly concepted. We hired an artist and put more together, and spent a year sort of posting from his various social accounts, getting his voice right, and then have had all sorts of interesting opportunities, such as the Worcester Red Sox approach us.
Before we talk about them, because I do want to talk about them in a second, but I love the fact that it's a coffin and not a casket, because I think it just really makes him more distinct. And I guess that had to be a decision that you made. No? or am I the first person to point that out?
It's a fortunate happenstance, perhaps.
When you have a baby, you can. It looks like the parents, the creators, and that's just how he arrived. We can't.
It also, caskets first started out as that shape,
right?
So I mean, he's an infant, he's small, so maybe when he grows up, he'll be rectangle.
Let's hope not. I think he's really distinctive that way. And how did the Red Sox, the Worcester Red Sox reached out to you guys about this, or were you just looking for other partnerships? How did you end up with a full-size guy in a Mort costume at baseball games?
They reached out to Mort's LinkedIn account, which of course he has.
Really,
he's a professional.
That's fantastic.
And they asked about a partnership, and we told him, we love experimenting with Mort, and so we found an arrangement that made sense for both sides. And of course, part of that is they're very into mascots in minor league baseball in general, but especially in Worcester, they already have like 3 mascots on the field every game. So we like to have fun here, and we thought let's figure out how to do that, how to make a mascot on a Titan-sized budget. And we were able to do that. It's these days you can kind of do anything. And so 6 weeks later we had the full-size Mort costume.
And we're very fortunate that Mort, really enjoys, all the Massachusetts teams. He's kind of very pro Massachusetts.
I don't think so. That's just what he's saying now, because they're the ones inviting him on the field. But we'll see who he really roots for. I think. Well, that'll come out over time.
So I get the impression that, Josh, you're still on the West Coast.
Yeah, but I grew up in the New York area. My folks are from the Bronx, so you can assume what you want from that.
Yeah. We have fun.
Maybe he can be the what'd you say, the Bronx? So maybe the Rangers. He could
exactly Mort on ice. My dream is really to sponsor a penalty, have him be the penalty box and sponsor penalty box on hockey on ice. So we'll see.
Mort on ice, yes.
Excellent. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys. But I want to give you guys the opportunity to say: is there something that I shouldn't ask? Is there something you thought we'd go over and I didn't get to it? Something that you need to announce, and I just called you on the right day?
Well, if you would like, Mort will be on August 1st again on the field of Worcester Red Sox. So he will reprise his role, and you're welcome to come, take a peek.
I am so sorry to be the one to tell you this comes out on August 4th.
Oh, jeez.
It is July 23rd as we're recording for the guest, but I guess he'll probably get at least one more shot before the season's over. If you're in the area, you can stay tuned for more.
Yeah.
And
By August 4th, you could read the headlines of how Mort, got into a fight with the other mascots on the field and to make national news.
Yes.
And how about Grave Conversations? Is that something is that working for you guys? Do you feel like it's something that's going to continue?
I mean, we want to continue it. I think we will continue it. It's like anything; it takes time. It is growing, and nothing happens that quickly. But we are growing quickly. I mean, it is turning a lot of heads, getting a lot of attention. So we'll see where it goes. We're having fun on the way too. So,
and that seems to be, I guess, that's one of the things that I find attractive about it is you're clearly having a good time doing what you're doing, and you don't take yourselves too seriously. You don't take yourself so seriously that you won't try something that you think will be interesting or will let people know about new ways to think about these conversations around death.
Yeah. I mean, we're always trying new things, certain experiments. We're a small, nimble company. And to your point, we're just having fun on the way.
Excellent. And how about you, Josh? Any final thoughts before we call it a day?
No, I would just reiterate something I said earlier is all we ask of the profession is to judge us on our own merits and we're easy to contact. So, if you have questions about Titan or how we operate or how we market, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Are you guys going to NFDA? Are you going to be looking to make connections there? Would you like to mention something about that?
Yeah, we are going. We'd like to let people know we're going. We'd love to meet everyone and anyone who'd like to meet us in Mort too. We'll have some Morts to pass out.
Excellent. Well, that is all I have for you. And thank you guys so much for your time.
Well, thanks for chatting with us. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks, Tony.
All right.
Thank you.
Funeral Service Insider, the podcast, is a Kates-Boylston production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo, and you can reach out to me at 732-746-0233, extension 709. That is 732-746-0233, extension 709, or follow the link in the show notes to my email address and shoot me an email. I'm happy to say that coming up in the next week or so is going to be a story that I am reporting on because of a tip that I received from one of you listeners. So you know who you are, and thank you so much for sending along that information. I am all over it. If you have anything you'd like to share or a story you think I should cover, or just want to let me know that I'm doing a good or bad job, you can do so by calling 732-746-0233, extension 709, or emailing me from down in the show notes. Follow the link. My phone number again is 732-746-0233, extension 709, and that will do it for this time on Funeral Service Insider, the podcast.